Welcome back, Tribe. Have an episode here, The Effect of Gender Disparities on Men. It's from CBS Sunday Morning.
It wasn't so long ago that men enjoyed a clear advantage in American society. But these days, a different story is emerging. Men and boys falling behind, and sometimes into despair. Lee Cowan takes a closer look.
At the University of Vermont not too long ago, it was move-in day for the class of 2027.
From my hometown.
About 1,000 incoming freshmen were meeting their roommates, finding their dorm rooms, and just generally getting settled on campus.
592 is that big.
Now, you'd be forgiven if at first glance you thought that this was an all-women's college. Well, 62% of this year's class are women.
Josie, what's your roommate's name?
And that's a gender gap that has earned Burlington, Vermont, a nickname. Girlington.
You see 6 or 7 women for every 3 or 4 men.
Yeah. As UVM's vice provost for enrollment, Jay Jacobs' job is all about student diversity. And these days, the male-female divide...
I wonder when that's going to come and bite them in the ass when student diversity means getting more men on board because the numbers are going to get so messed up. At what point do they go, 60-40 or more than 60-40 is too imbalanced for our campus? We're going to have to get more men. We're going to have to turn away women to get more men on campus. Are they ever going to say that part out loud? Or are we just going to go into extremes like the numbers turn into 80-20, 80% women, 20% men on college campuses? We'll see.
He is now part of that equation.
Sure, I thought about racial and ethnic diversity. Right. Sure, at a public flagship in the state of Vermont, I've thought about geographic diversity, never gender diversity like that. But that's where we are. That's where we are.
UVM, though, is hardly an outlier. Nationwide, women do make up almost 60% of college undergraduates.
In 1972, when Title IX was passed to help improve gender equality on campus, men were 13 percentage points more likely to get an undergraduate degree than women. Today, though, it's women who are 15 percentage points more likely to get a degree than men.
So we have a bigger gender gap today than we did when we passed laws to help women and girls. It just flipped.
Richard Reeves is a Brookings Institution senior fellow, and he says, shockingly, no one has really been able to explain why so many men are so absent in higher education.
Oh, really? Toxic campus culture against men, falsely accusing men of whatever it is you want to falsely accuse them as a woman. And campus takes matters into their own hands and will expel you. Police involvement for a case for false allegations of the sexual kind? No, not at all. Don't involve them. The college will do everything. Discriminating at admissions because they want more diversity and inclusion for all the things that guy just said before. Yet another strike. Venomous culture in general for female toxicity and female supremacy. Men are useless. Men are predators. Men are evil. The patriarchy, this and that, it's all a man's fault. So you created a toxic culture in college campuses, radicalized young females, turned them against the men, and then offer useless degrees like gender studies, programs that don't help you get a good job, but perpetuate student debt. And you wonder why the more logical side is thinking, I don't think this college thing is worth it. I don't want to go into a place to be lambasted for simply being a man or spend all this money on useless degrees because the programs that actually matter, like STEM fields that interest me, are getting almost no funding because my school wants to be diverse and woke. Okay.
What is known is the gender disparity starts pretty early as kindergarten, where girls are just generally the stronger sex in academics.
If you look at high school GPA and those who are getting the best grades in high school, 2/3 of them are girls.
Again, because schools think of boys as defective girls. They teach in a manner that's better for girls. I keep saying this all the time. Separate by the genders. We should have a boys' school and a girls' school, and the curriculum needs to be tailored to each gender. We learn differently. We think differently. We have different interests. Boys learn with their hands. Girls learn more with people, faces, talking. That is why you can put on a shitty projector with your entire class curriculum on there. Just let it play in slow-mo while a voice narrates or you read what the words are and then you jot down notes. And then this is better for girls and have discussions and shit. Men want to be touching things. Shop class disappeared. One of my most favorite classes at the time that I was hating was astronomy. It blew me away. This was so simple. My astronomy teacher was a man, which was already rare because most teachers are female and they have biases for girl students. My male teacher took me outside to the parking lot with the entire class with a telescope, and we got to see the planets for the first time. blew me away. That was the hardest class I had in high school. Our teacher wasn't an idiot. He had a passion for astronomy. He was also the physics teacher. Astronomy was an elective. You didn't even have to take it. And he took his class and his teaching seriously and didn't let anybody just skate with the bare minimum. You have to actually put in effort to get a good grade in that class. And I respected him for it. And that's still one of my most memorable teachers. A man with real passion, not just there a paid slave, not giving a shit about the students because they're busy with their own lives or whatever crap, or their stress or their feelings, or they're on their stupid tenure where they can't get fired, or thinking it's okay just to put up your class notes on the projector and have students write it all down and that's done. You did your teaching. You're not interactive. You're not sparking creativity and interest out of your students. You're doing the bare minimum just to get paid. We have a teaching problem at school. It's not that girls are smarter. It's just that we learn different. And most of our teachers are shit and do the bare minimum. Again, the stupid narrative of like, yeah, well, girls are just, no, maybe your system is shit. How about that?
Those with the lowest grades, 2/3 of them are boys.
It's been theorized that girls and women are just really fulfilling their destiny. That once the limitations on their achievements were lifted, they soar. Reeves, though, is so worried that he's launched the American Institute for Boys and Men because he fears that things have changed so fast, it's left many boys and men struggling to catch up, not just in the classroom, but at work and at home, too.
What does it mean to be a successful man today? That was a question that was pretty easy to answer a generation or two ago. But actually, what is the answer today? And a lot of these guys just don't know.
In short, he says, millions of boys and men don't understand how or where they fit anymore. And the reaction is to generally disconnect. Men's participation in the labor market, for example, has dropped more than 7 percentage points just in the last 50 years. 21% of men report binge drinking. That's almost double the rate of women. And men account for nearly 80% of suicide deaths. That's 4 times the rate for women.
The two most commonly used words by suicidal men to describe themselves were useless and worthless.
But even to suggest there's some kind of male crisis these days is pretty perilous.
Mm-hmm.
Merely raising it will cause people to eye roll and say, really? 10,000 years of patriarchy? Now you're worried?
That's what they say.
After all, women still earn only about 80 cents for every dollar earned by a man. Only a fraction of CEOs in the Fortune 500 are women.
And they make up just a quarter of the members of Congress. And so far, no U.S. presidents.
Numbers that leave UVM students Sarah Wood and Maxine Flordeliza pretty skeptical that men are just treading water.
And I think it's really interesting that there is kind of like a big fuss about, like, not a fuss, but it's a conversation that people are having, but I don't think it's necessarily a problem.
I think that just the fact that the playing field has been a little bit more evened out shouldn't be the reason as to why men don't really know where they fit.
Sure. Do we need to do more to encourage more women into politics and into boardrooms? Yes. But meanwhile, can I not see that one group is struggling here and another group is struggling there? And if I can't do that, we're in really deep trouble.
And those in the most trouble, he says, are working class and African American boys and men.
Before, it used to be you graduated high school, goodbye, you're on your own. A lot of people said, hey, you're out of my house, or it's time for you to go. But we're understanding now that those supports need to continue. Principal Hill, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
It's good to see you.
Mentorship destroyed. Boy Scouts no longer just for boys. Every single program men used to have that would be in some form mentorship for boys has disappeared from today. Shop classes was a simple way for men to get their hands dirty, quote unquote, with, electronics, metals, repairing woodwork, stuff like that. Things that would spark interest in a man. Maybe you didn't know you liked working with wood until you got a saw and started cutting wood and then nailing things together. And oh my God, you just built a frame and you're like, wow, that was actually very satisfying. Oh, I just took apart this radio and I put it back together and I soldered some of these wires and like, wow, I actually like this electrical stuff. And that's what caused men to go into STEM fields, to go into the higher sciences in general and just start learning about the world, things, stuff, how shit works. Instead, we have our boys in lectures from the teacher with a monotone voice, blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 for an hour. And like, what doesn't your kid pay attention? He's got ADD. Put him on Adderall. Put him on powerful medications that alter the receptors in his brain so he can focus, because I'm too much of a piece of shit to actually make a curriculum that excites a boy's brain. How many young kids are on ADD? I'm not saying it doesn't exist for the toads out there that are like, don't discount ADD. I'm just saying most of you that were diagnosed as children were simply bored in school, had no interest in the topic because your teacher was shit and didn't know how to spark your attention. Or the doctor didn't care and was like, yeah, just medicate the damn kid. Or your mother or your parents were like, oh, I just can't deal with him. I'm too busy at stress. Or just give him some medicine. The point is you don't have a problem. The system is actually the problem.
Vaughn Washington is with the Kalamazoo Promise in Michigan. It's a program that offers high school graduates in Kalamazoo scholarships covering up to the entire cost of in-state college tuition. The impact? Well, the number of Kalamazoo women getting a college degree did increase by about 45%. But the number of Kalamazoo men getting college degrees didn't budge.
We're working with them. We're talking to them. We're trying to find out what is it that even with this opportunity, you have some of the same challenges as someone in another community that doesn't have this opportunity.
One solution, though, that does seem to be working is making sure that those men who are struggling have a place to freely admit they're struggling.
Do he have a cell number you can give me?
Staffers with the Promise are tracking down those men still eligible for the scholarship, finding out why they never used it, and helping them get what they need to finally do it, like Daniel Joffrey.
I just started wandering around in life and doing random jobs, getting tired of random jobs. And
we welcome you here to the Kalamazoo Promise.
Now I'm here.
Need help up here?
He joined with dozens of other men at what the Promise was calling the Males of Promise event.
It's important that you put something positive out here on your name and on your future.
It was as much straight talk as it was straight out party. Dennis Martin graduated high school 6 years ago.
These men need a place to belong. They need to be part of something, a brotherhood, part of something greater than themselves. That's what men are looking for. And to be useful in that thing that's bigger than they could ever be. That's why team sports are so important for men. That's why working together, cooperating to build something is so important for men, because they feel like they belong, that they contribute to something. An overall greater purpose makes them feel needed, wanted, useful. These people don't understand that.
He says had the Promise not tracked him down, he might not have realized that he was indeed ready for something more.
I feel like now I have the discipline to be in a 5-year program or 4-year program. But as a kid, I feel like I was still bouncing off the walls and my mind didn't know what exactly is out there.
Back at UVM, administrators have changed their marketing and communication strategies to reach out to men, especially those who might not think they want to go to college at all. The college is also hiring a diversity coordinator to focus specifically on helping men.
The world was built for people like you and me to succeed, so why do we need to help men succeed here on our campus even more? But I think once people start to understand the nuances of the challenges that we're talking about here today, Lee, people understand that all students need support.
Junior Lucas Romer doesn't see it as some kind of affirmative action, putting the finger on the scale for men. He sees it as a way to help anyone who's been hanging on and feeling left out.
I think there's ways to promote both femininity and masculinity on campus equally well. I think there's definitely a path forward that would be beneficial to everybody.
The coordinator of the Men and Masculinities program will be housed right here in the Women and Gender Equity Center. Now, that's pretty ironic to some, but it's also a recognition that men's problems can indeed coexist with those of women.
You lift the edges up, the center will be lifted up as well. And here, the edges include men.
It's the kind of reaction to a very real problem of boys and men that Richard Reeves says needs now to be the rule and not the exception.
This is not a made-up crisis of masculinity. This is an actual hard fact. There's real suffering here. And if we don't address real suffering, then what are we here for?
The patriarchy has existed for thousands of years. What are you talking about? Men have problems. You're a man, deal with it. The other side is completely toned up. I decided to get a bachelor's in accounting after I retired from my first career. Every class I attended was dominated by women. It was eye-opening. And here it is. I appreciate CBS covering the topic. The problem isn't men are doing worse because women are empowered. We need young men and women to be helped in different ways. It's hard to care when you're labeled the bad guy. As a man in education for 20 years, I see slow, inevitable decline in male prosperity every year in my classrooms. Honors/AP classes are 2/3 female. Regular on, level 75% male. Some boys lack proper reading and arithmetic skills to thrive in our society. Nobody says anything, and I'm scared to point this out because I'll be accused of being sexist or whatever, but the writing is on the wall. Just wait a good 10 more years before anything is done. I see the future every day and pray for intervention. I went on the college route. I quit, mostly because I could earn $100K or more in a trade and also have no school debt. Getting ahead quicker for a future family rather than wallow in enormous debt was more important to me. We had only 2 boys on our school's top 10 academic performers in our grade. The amount of boys doing A-Port is dropping like flies. We had our grade 12 prom, and out of the 15 people that were single this year, 62% were boys and only 37% were girls. I found this really eye-opening, even though our school never speaks about any of this. Instead, they just tell the boys to perform better, which is a really lazy way of solving the apparent problem. I accumulated the data myself because this was too fascinating not to investigate. So a little bit of an anecdote there. How are we supposed to feel like accomplished men when we can't even afford to put a roof over our family's head? This country's going downhill fast. This is an interesting take here. Give it 3 years and we will begin to see discussion of a gender debt gap as women are more underemployed and major in studies that don't pay as much. Yeah, they're definitely getting far more useless degrees. Societies are way less stable when young men are not gainfully employed and otherwise productive and fulfilled. This is an incredibly important problem for everyone. You can shout from the rooftops, my friend. They won't hear you because it's women first, women empowerment. Women are boss babes. You're deserving queen. Every one of you don't need to settle for anything or anyone. How do you succeed in a society like that? How do you find balance? Where's the equilibrium? I don't know. Our president just got shot. Speaks to the health of America, right? What do you guys think? We'll see you in the comments. Take care, everybody.